Thank you, everyone, for joining here this morning. Great to have you all. For the topic of the session today, we're actually going to go through video analytics and vision AI for the masses, and to actually take us through kind of the customer experience and the end user journey. We actually are very fortunate to have Jim Miller, the president and CFO of Cistera, on to join us. And the idea is really to kind of let Jim first off tell us a little bit about what Cistera is, how he kind of started his AI and machine learning journey, and then kind of the lessons learned along the way, some of kind of the road bumps that might be there, so we all can kind of steer around them and just kind of take us through the AI journey as a whole. So Jim, with that, why don't we turn it over to you?
All right, super. Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody joining this morning. My name is Jim Miller, and I'm president of Cistera Networks. And I'm here today to talk to you about our AI and machine learning journey and go through several examples of how these types of solutions are deployed today in actual customer implementations for Cistera. And we'll also talk about some of the challenges that Cistera encountered along the way with our journey in machine learning, AI and machine learning journey, and talk a little bit at the end about how Cray and Mark III are working together with Cistera to resolve some of these challenges and open this solution up to the masses out there, which is really Cistera's goal. So let me tell you a little bit about Cistera Networks and some of our solutions, client solutions, and some of the customer markets that we currently serve. Cistera Networks is an applications and solutions developer where we're focused primarily on the unified communications market. Through our application platform, we offer clients customizable solutions and broad integration capabilities that help our clients to optimize customer experiences, compliance, and public safety. So let's talk real quickly about some of the markets that we serve. In the education market, we use our event learning and notification solution set to provide campus communications with broadcast capabilities through your Cisco IP phones and other broadcast endpoints. We also offer time of day ringing, where we manage the telephone systems for phone restrictions, and we also ring the school bells. We provide ad hoc recording for malicious calls, and we've also recently introduced a new solution called Secure Campus, and that's going to be one of the AI solutions that we talk about today and how we're using that in a school scenario. We also have government and public infrastructure, where we also use our event learning and notification solution. We also add LMR integration, which is land mobile radio, so you can integrate your radio handsets into your IP phone network and participate and record those communications as well. Thirdly, we do financial market sector, where we primarily are using our product set called quality assurance and management recording, where we do full-time call center type recording. We do screen captures for customer agents. We do call tagging, we do CRM integration, and we do QA scoring, and we've also added analytics, which we'll talk about today as part of the PCI sanitization process that we use as an AI application. And lastly, we do healthcare management sector, similar to finance, where we use quality assurance and management full-time recording. We do CRM integration and call tagging as well for facility management. So those are just a broad overview of the market sectors that we serve. So just a quick representation of some of our client base. We're very proud of our diverse client base, from professional sports teams to customers like Screen Actors Guild Pension Fund, the Malaysian Department of Civil Aviation, and healthcare customers such as Mercy Medical and Cray Hospital. So Cistera is a global organization. We've got implementations on every continent around the world. Since 2003, which is when we started the company, we have served more than 2,000 organizations with over 1 million seats, licensed seats in North America alone. Just to kind of give you a broad spectrum of where we've got implementations, and our development center is located in the Philippines. So we truly are 24 hours a day in service and communication for our customers. So let's talk about our first AI application that we want to kind of go into in detail today. And this is something we've been involved in for quite some time, and it's speech to text translation and how we use that for PCI sanitization and reporting and analytics. About 10 years ago, Cistera was contacted by one of our customers, the Veterans Administration, and we were asked if we could look into the ability to do a keyword search on recorded calls, looking for specific words or terms relevant to the VA that they wanted to identify and trigger specific client interactions on their end. So that was about 10 years ago, and we spent many years at Cistera researching speech-to-text solutions, and we uncovered several issues that we're still working today to get resolved. And I think as we talk about our involvement with Mark III and with Cray, you'll see where these guys are working actually to resolve a lot of these issues. But the very first thing we noticed in looking at this issue is speech-to-text translation is a huge processor-intensive use of computing resources. It cannot be done on a traditional platform with CPU processors. It has to be done in a GPU environment, and that, you'll hear a recurring theme on this. It really adds to the cost of the solution. You're using huge data files. You're moving petabytes of data back and forth between servers and through the cloud to get this process going, and that has its own challenges as well. And cost has been the main deterrent. Our focus at Cistera has been to this type of solution has always been available for those that can afford to spend large amounts of money. And we've been wanting to really introduce these types of solutions to our customer base, and cost has been something that we've had to kind of get our arms around. Now that we did find cloud-based solutions out there, but again, these were very expensive because you're being basically charged for your time spent on the server in the cloud. So we started working with Mark III several years ago, and we've identified a solution, Cognitive Call Center, working with Mark III, that actually does the speech-to-text translation. So what we're going to show is a very quick example between a caller and a call center agent. This call is being recorded and then it's being translated. So let's start that process, and we'll end up with a text file, and we'll talk about what we do with that text file at the end.
My name is Lauren. Can I have your name?
Yeah, my name is John Smith.
Thank you, John. How can I help you?
I was just calling about to see how much it would cost to update the map in my car.
I'd be happy to help you with that today.
Do you need the customer number?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's 15243.
Thank you. Okay, I think I found your profile here. Can I have you verify your address and phone number, please?
Yes, it's 1255 North Research Way. That's in Orem, Utah, 84097. And my phone number is 801-431-1000.
Thanks, John. I located your information.
Okay, so now you see we've got an audio file that has been converted to text, and we'll use that text file to do the PCI sanitization, and we'll use that text file to open yourself up now to all kinds of analytical opportunities that you didn't have before when this information resided as an audio file. And one thing that I want us to think about, and we'll circle back around at the end of my part of this presentation, is a future problem for Cistera. So when we founded the company, our initial way of rolling out solutions was to provide our applications on a customer premise Cistera appliance. Starting in 2016, we started offering the ability to implement our solution platform in a virtual environment using VMware Hyper-V for customers. And our next move is really to move to cloud delivery. So the big question for us is how, if these if you follow the original premise that these things are extremely processor intensive and huge data file intensive types of applications, how are we going to be able to deliver these in a cost-effective manner through the cloud as a software as a service solution? So we'll come back to that as we go through more of these examples. So let's look at a typical call center setup. In this call center, Cistera is providing a full-time QAM call recording solution. We're also recording agent screens in HD video. So what we do with our call recording solution is we provide the customer screens you can play back along with the audio, which is synced up time-wise, so you can see the interaction between the customer and the agent. So if you do the translation from speech to text, you now have three sources that you have to consider when you're looking at PCI sanitization. You have to sanitize the audio file, you have to sanitize the screen recording file, and you have to sanitize the text file. And by sanitization, we mean removing things like social security numbers, credit card numbers, date of birth, loan information, customer ID numbers, and that sort of thing. So there you see the cloud, which is, as these calls are in process, screen captures are in process, everything goes through the cloud to the cognitive call center solution. And what we have returned back to Cistera is this information with the PCI data deleted. So one of the benefits of speech-to-text translation in a call center environment is the ability to provide tonal analysis. Well, what that means is you can start to identify keywords from your text file and sort those between positive and negative words, and then provide an analytical process to do a deeper data dive into what I'll call hidden data. And that's really one of the true benefits to AI applications, is you're able to get deeper into your information and see things that before you did not have access to. So positive contacts, in a call center environment, these are certainly all positive words that are used. And of course, you can see negative contact words. So the question is, okay, what do you do with this? So wait, here's your manager down here. So your call center manager can use any platform in this call center environment. They can use a mobile phone, they can use a tablet, they can use a laptop, or they can use a desktop to monitor the live speech-to-text process as it's going to do live keyword searches if they want to. They can share the screens with their agents, and they can monitor the screen record, and they can also do what's called a call barge, meaning they can enter into that call between the call center agent and the customer and talk to the agent, and the customer doesn't hear it. So all of this can be part of that process. So you can take any word or term that is meaningful to your organization and data mine it from your call center recordings for data that traditionally has been hidden within your calls and financially has not been accessible to you. When I say we want to roll this out to all of our customers, I think that we're looking at, what solutions can we find that are intelligently designed and affordable so that we can roll this technology out. So you can start to build these type of analytical tools. And again, it doesn't have to be positive and negative contacts. It can be any term or word that is relevant to your organization. So by using applications, and we've really centered on Microsoft Power BI, you can combine your Cisco Call Manager call data records along with the speech-to-text data generated by Cistera and create analytics that give your organization deep insights into your operations that traditionally and historically were only available to Fortune 500 companies. And that's really, one of the true benefits to this that we see. So you can start to create analytical tools like this where, you can actually have live updates to this information during the day for management to see as it's going along. And you can integrate the speech to text analytical criteria that you've set up along with your Cisco call data information to show some very quality analytical tools. So let's talk about Secure Campus. This is certainly a timely topic with what's going on today. We've actually started this project about 3 years ago, working with one of our school districts here in the Dallas area. And in this scenario, we see a typical school campus setup. Let's populate the titles of the buildings here. Cistera is providing broadcast capabilities by campus and district to all endpoints. We're managing the school bells. We're providing phone access management all through our EAN application. So what Secure Campus does is it adds integration with third-party access control vendors to give schools the ability to perform emergency lockdown capabilities by classroom, by campus, and by district. So when an incident happens, there's a process that the schools can now go through to do a lockdown and send notification to 911 first responders to roll the campus. And again, with the campus scenario, with the secure lockdown, and also we're going to talk about some video analytics, our goal is to provide improved situational awareness. We're not stopping, we don't have a solution that will stop somebody from getting a weapon on the campus, but what we feel like we can offer is the ability to secure things once there's a situation in process, and also provide situational awareness for those who are responding to this. That's one of the things that we feel like is missing today, because everybody has a plan to deal with an incident on campus. What's missing is when something happens, those plans all tend to go up in flames. And anything that we can provide to add additional awareness to first responders as they're coming to the campus and to provide safety features for students, we feel is going to be a huge benefit. So this is a REST API integrated technology. It allows you to do enhanced security of multiple locations, faster lockdowns, increase 911 response time, or reduce 911 response time, increase activation options and locations, reduce confusion. Again, situational awareness. Is this a lockdown or an evacuation, a shelter in place? Exactly what is going on here. And it's all an automated process. So let's populate some speakers on campus, and let's introduce a person with a weapon who is, let's call it an active shooter or situation in process. So when you have an active situation, you've got 3 options to pick from. You can use your IP handset or mobile phone app activation to activate this lockdown process, and that typically takes 7 to 10 seconds. You can also go directly to a URL on your laptop or desktop and activate this lockdown process. Typically takes 2.5 seconds. Or you can push and activate a panic button, which is about 1 second. So when you do one of those 3 options, this goes out to our IoT gateway. It goes to the access control software. We send an alert out to all speakers on campus, and the speakers and IP phones also have speakers. So all endpoints that have a speaker will get a notification that there's a lockdown in process. We're sending a notification to first responders, and we get immediate response and have someone who has an idea of what's going on campus when they get there. We're immediately doing a lockdown of all classrooms. We're sending an alert to all devices that are registered on this system, its parents and family members, and then that notification goes out to the external constituents on this. So we feel like, again, this isn't something that's going to stop somebody from bringing a weapon on campus, but it will help greatly improve the response times and the ability to respond to any situation that shows up. So the next step for Secure Campus is to include video analytics and really move into the AI world here. This is the ability to identify someone through video that has a weapon or who does not belong on a campus through pattern recognition. This truly is AI and machine learning and a real unique and timely solution, we feel. So same lockdown scenario. We're utilizing the IoT gateway, and again, our key benefit is going to be situational awareness. So let's populate these school buildings with cameras, and you've got someone who is on campus with a weapon. Video sees it, goes to the gateway, goes through the same lockdown process, and sends an alert out and gets 911 rolling to campus. So again, situational awareness, you can take snippets of video and send those along through our EAN backbone so that someone's not just getting an alert, they're getting the video of what was seen and have much better awareness when they roll onto campus and see this activity in process. So what are the key takeaways from all this? Cistera is currently working with key partners like Mark III to introduce AI applications that are deployable today and are deployed today. The facts remain that AI applications are extremely processor intensive, involve large amounts of data usage, and cost will always be a key factor in client adoption of AI technology. So this is why Cistera is looking to develop relationships with companies like Cray, who are introducing GPU-based hardware server solutions that are designed to be scalable and affordable. And those are very key terms, because I think of all the issues we've run across, cost is just rules the day at the end of the discussion. Anything that we can do, these types of solutions will drive down costs for companies like Cistera, who are in the process of moving our platform and AI solutions to the cloud, and companies like Cray that are offering dependable, intelligently designed hardware solutions that are also affordable, will only speed up the proliferation and adoption of AI and machine learning applications, and I think we all benefit from that. So I appreciate your time in looking at this, and at the end of this, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about what you've seen. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you again, Jim. So everyone, thanks again for kind of joining that piece. A little bit about kind of Mark III and how we fit in with Cistera. So kind of as you saw, so Cistera has a tremendous amount of IP and a lot of very kind of forward-thinking approaches to some of the problems that we're running into today. And they really fit particularly well on kind of that machine learning and the AI side. So you saw Jim kind of take you through their stack, basically being able to plug into all of those different areas. And that's really an extremely important part to the machine learning progression, and also to kind of that whole digital transformation progression that we all keep hearing so much about. So a little bit about how Mark III and how Mark III fits into that. So originally started back in 1995 as an IT solutions provider. We support enterprise clients pretty much across the world at this point, mostly in North America. We're based in Houston, Texas. And our real approach has been kind of one step at a time from that 1995 original founding. We've basically built a lot of the different technology stacks. So we're engineer focused, very heavy on the servers, the storage, the networking, kind of all of those components together. And about 4 years ago, we had enough of our customers asking for these machine learning stacks. What should we do? You guys already kind of know our environment. Where should we be making investments? Where does AI and machine learning make sense? And we basically decided that we were going to start up a separate digital development group, still owned by Mark III Systems, but if you hear the name Blue Chasm, that's kind of where that fits in. And it's really a group of developers who focus on building machine learning stacks, and they focus on how to actually integrate those machine learning stacks into existing software technology, as well as existing infrastructure technology. So when you hear us talk about the full stack, IDC kind of coined that term last year, and that's really kind of where we're focusing. So again, taking those existing IT infrastructure stacks, you don't have to make huge wholesale changes to be able to leverage machine learning and AI. It's really just an idea of being able to modernize and figure out where those layers fit into the stack. And then also being able to do a lot of the analytics builds. So those cognitive tech stacks, you'll hear a lot about TensorFlow, you hear a lot about Caffe, you hear a lot about some of these newer technologies. And that's really kind of where our Blue Chasm group focuses, is kind of how to get the most out of those. And then the rest of our organization kind of helps build that into the stack itself. Again, we talked about how we're engineer-led. So we've got 4 engineers to every one of our sales folks. We've had a few additions. We're actually getting pretty close to that 5-to-1. So definitely one of those where the focus is on the technology and on the engineering itself. As you build out in the machine learning stack, you'll notice there's a lot of different technology providers. The beauty to AI and machine learning right now is it's kind of in a new process. So there's a lot of new people that are out there. But the challenge to that is there's a lot of different partnerships that you have to be able to kind of put together, get different components working together, and then how that fits into those existing stacks. So us having those 50+ key partnerships really kind of helps our customers not have to go create a net new relationship everywhere that they need some piece of functionality. We can actually help kind of go in and incorporate that. So whether you're leveraging Docker, whether you're leveraging TensorFlow, just being able to kind of step through that process and where these different components kind of bolt together has been really helpful for our customers. And then of course, we're very honored. IDC actually awarded us last year the designation of Partner of the Future. And that's really kind of around this full stack approach. So being able to kind of take that machine learning, put it into an existing environment, not making big wholesale changes, but really being able to say, hey, you already have this data. If you add computer vision as an example, or if you add speech to text, then you can more quickly be able to understand what's happening in your call center. You can more quickly with computer vision be able to identify threats that may be coming onto campus, like Jim was talking about, or maybe be able to have kind of a second layer of authentication for secure door access or things like that, where there's cameras already present. So that's kind of Mark 3 in a little bit of a nutshell. So the next part that I kind of wanted to take everybody through, and this was kind of this is kind of how we generally start most of our conversations with new prospects or existing customers that are looking at kind of, hey, how do I get started in this AI journey? And the reason that I show this is Gartner, and if you get a chance to go listen to some of the Gartner conversations, we're going to do this at a pretty high level here, but it's really pretty fantastic to be able to see. But we're all seeing the marketing messaging today. We see elevators that talk to us. We see, cell phones that are supposed to do all of these great and wonderful things from the TV perspective. When we're watching TV, we see all of these commercials. Well, then when you go and you call the folks that are actually the title sponsors of those commercials, and you say, hey, I want that elevator that talks to me. You find out that, hey, it's not actually an elevator that talks to you. It's something that is possible and some people are using, but it's not really been productized because there's a lot of kind of customization. There's a lot of individual components that go to it. So that's kind of one of the pieces that Gartner talks about when they start talking about machine learning, is really being able to kind of understand where we are in kind of the quote unquote hype cycle, so that you can kind of temper expectations and you can kind of follow and build a path for how you get to that level of productivity that you want from AI and machine learning. So real quick overview of just what the hype cycle is itself. So there's, at the very beginning, that bottom left-hand side is the technology trigger. So in this case, it's AI. You can choose it pretty much whatever you want. This hype cycle fits for the Industrial Revolution. It hits for kind of that .com boom. It's really just kind of anything that kind of takes that hype cycle. So you have that technology trigger, and you get the marketing that comes along with it, and then you kind of hit this upper area, which is that peak of inflated expectations. So that's, hey, this is going to be the greatest thing. I'm going to have a personal assistant. I'm going to get home. It's going to make me dinner. It's going to make me coffee in the morning. It's going to do whatever kind of that inflated expectation is. And then you start to see the adoption in the curve, and then you kind of drop off into this trough of disillusionment. And I love that word just because it's one of those where it is kind of how you feel. So those of you who've kind of gone through like the home automation concept with some of the Alexa devices or the Google Home devices, kind of know how this is. You get it and you have all of these great, wonderful ideas, and then you kind of see, okay, I can do this with lights, but hey, I want it to go do this, or hey, I want this specific thing. And you kind of drop off into that trough where you say, gosh, I had these inflated expectations. I don't feel like I'm getting very far. But those folks who kind of persevere through that trough of disillusionment can actually really start to see that slope that takes off into the slope of enlightenment. And what that is really being able to say, hey, I now understand, I have that grounding, I have that foundation for what machine learning is going to provide for me. This is what I'm going to get out of AI. This is kind of that business value I'm going to get. I'm going to be able to pass video information to responding police officers or ambulances, or I'm going to be able to look out over my call center that has 1,000 phone calls coming in at any given time, and I'm going to be able to see basically what people are calling about. That's kind of coming up that slope of enlightenment. And then we have the plateau of productivity, which we're all pretty consistent with now. So you think about mobile phones and look at it through kind of the hype cycle. We're kind of getting to that point with like the iPhones. More mature products, there's still new features that are coming out, but from a productivity perspective, we're kind of starting to hit that plateau. We're still kind of going up a little bit, but that's where that plateau piece is. So take that as kind of the hype cycle as a whole. Now, what Gartner basically did, and again, this is back from July of 2017, there'll be a new version coming out again this summer. So we'll see some of this progression, but you can kind of go through and pick any of these. And I think it's particularly interesting to make sure that we call attention to the key here. So as you look at these, if you see this triangle as an example, that's 10 years or more is kind of where they expect the timeline for that to actually kind of hit that plateau, to actually be where you're seeing productivity. So the really interesting part to me is it's look at how much is actually up here in the top part of this hype cycle. So you've got deep learning, which is kind of, you know, according back in 2017 July, they're thinking that's kind of about at the peak of those inflated expectations. You'll see the cognitive computing, that's still got 5 to 10 years before it kind of hits that plateau. And again, Gartner looking at blockchain, looking at some of these other components, and even looking over here at the IoT platforms. So you think about how much Alexa and Google Home have grown. So really the whole concept there is, how do you get to where you can actually build out reasonable proofs of concept, reasonable things you can go take to business leaders and be able to show the value. So as you're looking at this hype cycle, it's a good time to get started there, starting at stage 0, stage 1 side. And the idea is, again, being able to say, hey, we're going to go build something that we can go show. You don't want to necessarily go in there with slideware, because again, you run into that same thing that you see with the elevators that talk, or some of those other, like the aircraft engines that talk, things like that. What you want to do is be able to actually go and show, hey, here's what we can really do. That kind of solidifies that concept of here's our foundation. So you kind of start at that trough, and then you're able to build up from there, because you don't want to kind of fall down into the trough after you start the process. And that's one of the things that Mark III can help you with. We can show you, we've built Alexa applications. We can talk to storage devices through Alexa. We've done similar things with healthcare software. So being able to actually show you how a patient could theoretically integrate into their own e-health records. How do they provide input? How do they provide feedback? How do you give reminders? How do you do kind of some of those things and actually integrate them into someone's everyday life? So we can help you kind of show that. The speech to text that you saw from Jim, a lot of that functionality is Cistera-based functionality, and they've done a fantastic job in that part of their journey. But we can show you how to actually integrate speech to text into your particular environment. How do you do keyword searches? How do you get some of these other components? So glad to kind of help you all from that perspective. And then kind of going to that next step, you start to see the machine learning, the autonomous vehicles, the cognitive computing. That's really kind of where you start to get to that point of computer vision. So that's kind of that next step in the journey from the Cistera perspective that you just saw. So how do you train a model to what you want? We've shown examples, and we've got YouTube links that we can share with you all that show you how it works in a manufacturing concept. So we have, you know, cans of soda that are going across a manufacturing line. How do you identify defects? How do you identify the level of defect? So is it a defect where it just needs to get repainted? Or is it a defect where it actually needs to be scrapped and reworked before any product gets put into it? So again, from a safety perspective, very helpful, but also from a productivity perspective, very helpful. So we've actually built these things. We can show them to you. We've got lots and lots of videos of them. And again, the idea is not that, hey, you're going to go pick one of those and take it off the shelf. There is investment, there is engagement that's needed. And Jim kind of stepped you through a lot of how they did that from Cistera's perspective, but we're happy to help you kind of along that way. So that's kind of the hype cycle as a whole. Now, the next kind of obvious step is, okay, that's great. I get where I am in the hype cycle. I have a couple of ideas on things that I want to go do. How do I get prepared for this? What do I need to do next? So the first one is really kind of to figure out what kind of a prototype you want to build. Again, we're happy to help you with that. We can show you a number of prototypes that we have built. Not because, again, you want to use one of those, but the idea is kind of get those thoughts going. We do those in what's called an Art of the Possible session. We also have another one that's called a user experience session. And what that is you can actually bring end users in. We can help you through a workshop that helps kind of identify what is reasonable for them, what is something that would be valuable to your end users, and then be able to help actually map that into an overall project and how you build out a minimally viable product that you can then go and showcase and say, we want funding for this because here's the concept of what we're going to build. And so from that perspective, you kind of get that started. And then the next step is, all right, so how do we actually build this for scale? How do we get this so that it's something that, yeah, it's great if it works once. We need this to work for 1,000 users, or we need to have this work across an entire campus like Jim is talking about. So it's not 2 or 3 cameras, we're talking thousands of cameras, if not tens of thousands of cameras in some of these environments. How do you scale for that? How do you build for that? Well, the key part is having those scalable, flexible machines, and they are purpose-built machines, and that's part of the reason for our affection for Cray. They are the supercomputer company, so if you have supercomputer workloads, they need to scale, they need to be flexible. That's kind of the organization to look with. The next step is really making sure you're focused on these machine learning frameworks, and Cray has bundles and packages of these frameworks. We can help you with others that may be slightly different or maybe part of that bundle that you say, hey, this is what I want to do. We can kind of help you build out that stack. So again, the cafes, the PyTorches, the TensorFlows, the Neons, the Big DL, the Deep Learns, all of those sorts of things are really kind of the big overarching components for those frameworks. And then kind of last but certainly not least is the focus on the libraries. So do we need to use CUDA libraries? How are we going to actually use the video that comes in? Because a lot of this is really the next AI and deep learning and machine learning applications are really going to be focused around computer vision. So how do we do that? How do we leverage the right GPUs? How do we find the right systems? We can kind of help you through that architecture perspective. So with that, I think we'll pass it over to Rajesh from Cray. So thank you, Rajesh. Here you go.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, everyone. My name is Rajesh. I'm from Cray. I lead AI product strategy. Previously, I was at Samsung doing AI for manufacturing, and before that, I was at NVIDIA in the automotive team. Happy to be working with Mark III as well as Cistera as a close partner here. Here, I just want to go through what is kind of how does Cray look at AI and how does it fit in? So what Cray really focuses on in AI is the entire workflow. We think that the focus on deep learning, as Jim mentioned, on deep learning is quite high right now. But we think where Cray plays really well is on enabling the whole workflow. And if you've ever done any AI projects, any data scientists would tell you that it's not about just the model training part, but it's the whole workflow, right from data preparation model development, and model implementation. And this is where where Cray offers kind of both software as well as hardware to enable this workflow. And we have been working with a lot of customers in a lot of different industries with lots of different types of data. We have some customers in pharma, as well as in like energy, oil and gas. We also have customers like in autonomous vehicles, insurance, as well as kind of the national labs. Of course, being Cray, we have a lot of scientific type of customers. So those are some of our most deeper use cases. But you can see we have a breadth of AI customers using our products. And some of the data types that Jim mentioned is, like for the autonomous vehicles, we're looking at full motion type of video data. For energy, large 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional types of image data, as well as text data. So we're supporting all kinds of different kinds of use cases as well as data for AI. And I want to kind of deep dive into one of the use cases. I think Chris mentioned actually one of these specifically, but the way we think of AI, the use cases that are useful in insurance specifically for AI are things around compliance and process automation. And some of the reasons why these are good use cases for AI is, first of all, there's a lot of data. So for AI, you need a lot of data. You need to know exactly what you're trying to look for. So for a compliance use case, typically you have lots of data that's already labeled, like this is compliant, this is not compliant. And you also have very clear guidelines on what words you need to identify, or certain patterns they need to identify for certain type of compliance. So that's why this is a very good use case for compliance. One example is kind of looking at exactly the use case that Jim mentioned, where you're analyzing audio from the support calls to identify certain words for some type of compliance, or if you want to do some kind of PCI compliance. The other type of use case, which one of our customers is using, is process automation. So if you have lots of different data sources and you're trying to do some kind of process, enable some process, you have to understand the data and extract some patterns out of the data in order to do some process. So one example is like in insurance, where you're getting images from cars about damages, and you use that to automatically understand, what are these damages and what kind of claims we need to process. And doing that in an automated way is a perfect use case for AI. So how Cray kind of enables the whole workflow and some of these use cases is through a bunch of things. So these are some things that we announced just earlier this week at ISC. So the first thing is the AI kind of reference configuration. We call them Axle AI. We've heard from a lot of customers that there's a lot of new technology, lots of new ways to put together storage and processor compute. And we don't really know what's the best, most cost-effective way to put these together. So what we offer is, what in particular is kind of a reference configuration, very prescriptive configuration for different stages of your AI journey. So if you're more on the exploration type of stage, we have a one-node solution that's focused, if you just want to do some exploration and deep learning, that would be the config. If you want to kind of have a smaller team do some prototype for models for the workflow, we come up with this one rack config, which is a mix of GPU, CPU nodes, as well as flash and hard disk, kind of configured in a way that makes sense for a balance that'll fit in a single rack. Then when you want to scale up to more a bigger team that you want to support, or more production type of environment, we scale this up. The whole config up to have more GPU nodes, more CPU nodes, more flash, as well as hard disk, and put it together in a way, and it's a 3-rack solution that will support that kind of production workload. And kind of throughout these configs, what we're trying to do is have this heterogeneous compute, CPU, GPU, hybrid storage, flash, and hard disk, and enable this whole journey in an easy kind of scalable way. And across these configs, we have one software suite called Eureka CS that we just announced this week. And it kind of bundles in a lot of the open source packages for the whole workflow. So for the data prep part of the workflow, we have the Spark kind of ecosystem supported, as well as for the deep learning part of the machine development part, we have TensorFlow, some of the other libraries for that part of the workflow. And kind of we optimize all this for, if you want to train a model across the entire compute that you have available, we've kind of optimized the libraries as well as kind of distributed training to train across all the compute that you have available. And this is a stack that we support. Like we support the whole stack with updates. So as new technology come online, we would put that into our stack and support it. Another thing that we offer kind of in this whole AI journey is, even before you want to buy a system, you want to just test some of the new hardware software that we have available. We offer something called Axel AI Lab, where we have where we provide a lot of the compute resources, storage, as well as some of the stack we have, as well as new stack that we are developing on, as well as any partner stacks that we want to showcase. And you have access to this kind of to prototype your workloads, understand how it works in different systems and software. So that's kind of my pitch about how can we help in your entire workflow. So if you're really looking at not just one part of your AI journey, and you want to look at configuration, the software that covers this whole workflow, that's where we think we can really help you. And with that, I think we're done. We can probably take questions.
Great.
Yes, so we do have one question. I think this is for you, Jim, but Paul wants to know, what is a typical deployment timeframe for a solution, for example, Campus Alert?
Gosh, I think that we've got the backbone in place with Cistera's EAN solution. We're probably looking at a couple of weeks worth of, and we're working on writing a universal gateway that'll work with. So far, what we've done with the third-party access control vendors is write a interface, but we're going to have a universal interface, which will speed the process up. So I'd say anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, just depending on how intensive we have to get in the interface at this point. In the future, it'll be much faster, but that's really the gating factor right now.
Okay. Are there any other questions from anyone? Okay, Chris, take it away.
All right. Well, just again, wanted to make sure we all say thank you. Thank you again, Jim and Rajesh, for joining us, and Yusra, thank you for putting all this together, and a big thank you from our friends at Cray for making such a great product. And Jim is glad to answer any questions that you all have about Cistera and their suite of products. So just let us know. Thank you again, and have a great day, everyone.